Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this Lunch and Learn live demo with Quallie.Ai. Thanks for being here. People are arriving. We're going to give them a few seconds while we wait for everyone to arrive. Great to see some familiar faces and some new faces as well. So the purpose of today's session is to go through the main features and functionalities of Quallie.Ai. We've recently done a number of changes and new releases. A few more people coming. Just give it a second. Okay, full house. Great to see everyone. So the purpose of today's session is to take you through the main features and functionalities of Quallie.Ai, and whether you are new to the platform, you've never used it before, you should leave with a sense of what the possibilities are, or if you're a current user of the platform, this should give you a sense of some of the new functionalities and what's possible. Before we start, just a quick view of our principles when it comes to analysis of qualitative research. I am myself, as a background, a qualitative researcher with a background in anthropology, so I'm very close to the world of research and insights. And one of our core principles is one of the things we ask ourselves is, what is the role of AI when it comes to good research and good work? And we look at AI as a thinking partner, right? So something that's designed to support our research and not replace it. So hopefully throughout today's demo, you will see what we mean by that. Secure and private. The data is never used to train the models. Getting some background noise. Muted everyone. All right. So we don't use the data to train the language model, and the data uploaded to a platform is only accessible to you. And we have a number of guardrails that ensure hallucination-safe insights. I'm going to show you those in a second as well. We are recording the session, so if you do, and we will share the recording with anyone who signed up. So if you don't feel comfortable being on camera, it's a good time to turn off your camera. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the platform. This is our website, Quallie.Ai. If you do have an account, you can sign in from the top right of the landing page right here. If you don't have an account, you can get access to a free trial by clicking on Getting Access, and we will send you all the details required to get your trial. When you sign in, this is what sorry, a few more people coming. Great turnout, great to see everyone. Thanks for joining. So for those of you who just arrived, we are demoing Quallie.Ai. So this is the view from our workspace. So once you enter the workspace, you will see this view. You will have your company name on the top left. So in this case, it's True Research. I have here a number of folders. So you navigate your workspace on the side here, and those folders can be named after your client or a specific project you're working on. And inside each folder, you can have multiple projects. In this case, I'm working on a project for Billabong Europe, which is, as you may know, a sports brand and a surf brand, where we interviewed a number of participants on the topic of surf culture and technology. So I've created this project called Surf Culture IDIs. As you can see, I've started, so it appears here on the side of my Start project. I can create a new folder or a new project with this plus button. I can give it a name here. You can control the access to your folders here by choosing who can see the folder you've created. And you can create projects inside the folders with this plus button. When you do create a project, you can check some of your transcription settings. For example, words boosting. So if you're working with some specific spelling or specific words, you can type that word in here. For example, there is a really odd surf brand called Faisal, right? So in this case, I can sort of train the model to pick up this specific word and spell it in the way I want, and I can do this for multiple languages. We also have pretty accurate PII reduction, so the removal of personal identifiable information such as email address or nationality. So you create this and it will be applied to your project. Once you click onto a project, you will enter this view, which we're calling the interviews view, where you see all of your participants that have been interviewed for the project, right? So as you are aware, Quallie.Ai is a tool to analyze in-depth interviews and focus groups that you've conducted yourself personally. So to upload one of your interviews, you would click on this upload button and choose one of those integrations to upload your file. I'm gonna drop in Jenny's interview. which is one of our US-based surfers who talked to us about surf culture and technology. So it's now uploading. While this is uploading in the background, I'll go on to show you some of the other features. So on this page, once that interview is completed, we'll automatically generate a transcript. We support over 50 languages, and the platform detects the language automatically. So here I have James, for example. Is my interview with James, where we were talking about, again, surf culture and technology. You can see it's a 1 hour, 40-minute interview. One of our key features is the play from anywhere. So whenever you see a word that's interesting, you can play the video back from there. It's in my headphone now, so you probably can't hear it. From this view, you can do a number of things, starting with the transcript. You can edit the transcript by clicking on this button, edit mode. What this does, it pulls up a transcription confidence table on the side where it tells us if the AI is unsure on specific words. In this case, we're seeing only a few words have been highlighted in yellow, meaning the confidence is pretty high. It's a clear, crisp recording, so there's not many mistakes. If you do see a mistake, you can fix it by clicking on the word and changing it from here. You can then exit transcript edit mode. On this page, you can also translate in 50 plus languages. So in this case, I've translated this into French, and just with one click, the entire transcript gets translated. So this works in both directions. Obviously, whether it's a French interview, translated into English and vice versa. I'm going back to my original language in English. What you'll see here on the right-hand side, it's a summary. That's our first AI output that we'll encounter on the platform, right? So if you see here, it's a thematic summary of all the sort of topics that were discussed. If we scroll down, for instance, one of the most interesting ones were the topic of surf culture, which we discussed. James sees surf culture as expanded and global, bringing people together, but also notes commercialization and social media-driven fashion. One of our core concepts behind the platform around thinking with AI and AI as a thinking partner is the hyperlinking. So anything that's AI generated will always have a link back to the source. So in this case, if I'm clicking here, it takes us right there when it talks about surf culture. Right, and here, for example, it's talking about modern day surf culture has lost the true grit, and they do it for the social media. They don't do it for the love of the ocean, etc., etc. So this is a really quick way to navigate our transcript when we're seeing something that's interesting. For instance, wave pools are mentioned here. I can simply click and it will take me to that part. As you might notice, we've tagged this participant. So we have advanced, male, US, and segment A. You can create and add tags from here, but also from your sidebar by clicking onto interview tags. Those are helpful to tag your recruitment specifications as well as some segments that might be emerging from the study or anything else you want to analyze by. You can then apply the tags going back to your interviews view. You can select multiple participants and do some of those batch actions like tagging interviews or downloading the transcripts. You can do with this download button. You can download the original or the translation in both Word and PDF. And this is your interview page, right? So we've looked at transcription, translation, and sort of organizing our data with tags. Let's have a look now at the most interesting part, which is the analysis, right? So in this analysis, we have a number of options. Let's start with the latest release, which is the chat function, which we've been very excited to launch. And this is a pure chat interface where you can ask any question to the data, with the major differentiator from ChatGPT or Gemini being the ability to say, take on all of the context of the research, right? So in this case, we have 13 hours of recordings. And let's see this question I've just asked. So defining surf culture. What are the key elements that define surf culture? And as you can see here, it talks about surfing as a central lifestyle, connection to nature, community and competition, etc. And those points, as you can see, are always linked back to the source data. So for example, localism and aggression, several participants noted the negative side to the culture characterized by localism, where local claims the waves and aggression in crowded lineups. So if I see here, David mentioned that topic. So if I click on David, it will bring me directly to that part of the transcription, which I can obviously play back as well. This becomes a very good way of navigating our data and switching between them. Here's another good example, which is Simone. In this case, it's an Italian interview, which we have translated into English. So just with one click, I can read what he's saying in his original word. For example, we think of the most beautiful lifestyle, but in the water, it's something else. It's war, guys. So to me, I'm not proud to say that I'm a surfer. Right? So you see with the level of nuance, we can get into translated text as well. In the chat function, I can obviously create follow-ups and ask all sorts of things. So there's full flexibility. For instance, I can say, how does it compare between US and EU participants? Create a table of the key themes. So just like you would in ChatGPT, Gemini, Notebook LM, the platform is able to generate tables as well. And those tables are always linked back to the source data. While this chat is thinking, I'll just show a different one. For instance, here we've asked, what does the process of buying a surfboard look like? And again, here it's identify the key steps. So identifying the need, quiver expansion, research and information, etc., etc. So this is, again, a very flexible view where I can then ask, for example, create a journey map table with all the key steps, include pain points and moments of delight for each step. We are using quite an advanced thinking model, so it will take some time to answer your questions, but this ensures very high level of accuracy and precision when you do that. While this is thinking, I'm going to go back to the question I just asked, right? So how does it compare between US and European participants and the key themes? You can see what it's done here, pulled up all of our key themes, technology, sustainability, social dynamics, and divided it between US and European participants. And again, the major differentiator here is the amount of data has been able to pull from, reading from, and top to bottom, all of the transcripts, right? So the tool, whenever you ask a question, it will read every single word rather than only some chunks, which ensures high precision. And when you click again on an answer, on a person's answer, it will bring us to Jennifer in this case, or Simone, again, when we talked about the war, right here. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them into chat. I'm going to try and read them. But I'm going to continue to the next analysis feature. So we've looked at the chat, which is the most sort of fluent and flexible way of analyzing your data. You can also introduce filters and ask for specific participants or specific tags here. Going back to the top of the analysis functionalities, let's look at the summaries. This is where we are comparing side by side all of our summaries from all of our participants, right? So this is, for example, James, which we looked at earlier, right? So James's summary includes the dual nature of modern surf culture, which was mentioned here. Again, we see it again here evidenced with its video and text. And this enables sort of a side-by-side comparative analysis where I can click through every single bullet point and watch back and read the key learnings. You'll notice here a blue table in the blue answer card at the front of our table. This is a summary of all summaries. So we've read across all of your summaries and it's telling us the key themes that are emerging across the entire project. So it's an interesting place to go and look for our sort of top line learnings. For example, when it comes to technology and digital integration, forecasting is an essential tool. And we can see here number 5, meaning 5 people mentioned this topic. And I see those people here. And again, I can listen back and play back those videos. Let me see some questions in chat. All right, so taking your questions one by one, we don't have focus group tagging individually at the moment, so we can only tag at the recording level, but that is on our roadmap and should be released soon. So keep an eye out for that, Abby. You'll be the first to know. We currently support transcript videos and audio for now, so we don't have the ability to upload research papers. Um, Although you could upload a transcript and a text of a research paper, but the platform is designed for qualitative research conversations. And in terms of integrating with recruitment, we don't integrate with any recruitment platform. So you would run your recruitment outside of the tool and then bring in your recordings. So I guess 3 no's to 3 questions for now, but good food for thoughts in terms of what to build next. So thank you for asking those questions. I'll take you now to the next analysis feature, which is the question grid, where it's a place where you can go into loads of detail onto specific topics. And this is designed to resemble the sort of traditional way of analyzing qualitative research in, let's say, in an Excel view. So here I'm seeing, for instance, all of my participants' answers to the question, what does surf culture mean to you? And again, let's look at James. You see here we have a lot more details compared to what we saw in the summary. Surfing is fashion-driven, culture, personal social impact of surf culture, etc. And in our first answer card, again, we see an overview summary of all of those questions. So the main difference between here and chat is obviously, as you can see, it's this grid view and getting an answer for each participant. So it enables you to go into a lot more detail compared to a chat functionality, which prioritizes flexibility of interaction. You can ask a question from here, for example. What does the journey of buying surf equipment look like? And I can give it a nickname here, surf journey. You can ask that question. You will add it at the bottom of your grid and generate an answer for each participant. I can also create tabs here, as you can see, a little bit like Excel would, and I can group my questions into those tables and tabs. And I can also import questions. So this is a discussion guide import functionality where you would bring your discussion guide document with all of your questions, and you can then choose which one you want to ask and ask them all in a batch. The grid that this goes to generate can be downloaded and exported into Excel with or without quotes. So for example, let's have a look at the question we just asked. What does the journey of buying equipment look like? And let's see what David has to say, for example. So broad selection strategy, the role of brand recognition, finding the magic board. Here, if I click on this button, it's called display quotes. So it transforms the entire grid from AI output to specific quotes. Right? So it pulls directly and it shows us what was mentioned. So as I mentioned, you can download the entire grid into an Excel by clicking on this button. You can also apply tags and filters to the grid, so to only see, for instance, answer from advanced surfers or specific segments. Video editing and exporting, yes, Alma, definitely. Let me show you how to do that. So when you find a quote that you find interesting, for example, let's say the magic board. Let's see, here it's called, the reason why it's called magic board is that you can't really take a systematic approach to finding it. Okay, so let's say we really want to export this or generally save it as an interesting insight. You can highlight the text like so, and it will bring up this pop-up, which tells us it's a 9-second clip, which we're going to call magic board, and we will save in a library called for export. I click on the check mark, and it will now create a video clip for us, which will be saved in that folder. Let's try a different one. Let's see, Margot, for example, moving past the beginner stage. Her friend is a surf coach. Let's clip this. Let's call it surf coach friend. Save it in the folder for export. So I've created 2 clips in that folder. Let me create a third one from Andy. Something about a YouTube video, some highlighting the text. It brings up our pop-up, saved in the for export folder. I can let it name it itself. So we have this feature where if you don't name it, it will pull the context from what's been highlighted. And those files are now saved in our reporting section here in the sidebar under clips. Thanks, Amy, for the question. I'll come to it in a second. So this works with tabs, just like our question grid. So let's go into our for export tab, where we're seeing all of the video we just created, including David's magic board, which I can play back and listen. We can download this clip by clicking on the download button. We can also edit the clip, clicking on edit. So for example, we may want to shorten it so that it starts from the I think. To do so, I can just drag here and it shows me what words have been deleted. And I can also translate the subtitles. Translate it to German. Click apply. And we'll regenerate our video with German subtitles. We can also create reels. So if you select multiple videos and click this button, create reel, you can call this live demo film, and we'll stitch together our 3 videos, which can also be exported as a unique reel. If you want to add more videos, you can click on this plus button, and you can also add a cover slide. For example, you can call this great reel about surf. We see some users use this functionality for example, they might bring in the question that was asked so that they can show it ahead of the video. In terms of cross-segment tag comparison, Amy, we can do that in a couple of ways. You can do it from the chat simply by asking to do so. So we've done it here, for example, comparison of key themes, US versus European participants. This comparison has been pulled from the tags that we've created in the interview tag section, right? So region of origin is Europe and US. So simply by typing compare Europe and US, it will do it. Say another tag we used was surfer experience level. So I can go now create another table comparing surfer experience levels. So this works through natural language prompting. You can also do it by, for instance, only saying, I only want to look for answers in European beginner females. I would apply these 3 tags and then ask the question. So here our comparison table is starting to come up. Still thinking and applying all of our answers. You can also do this here. So when you generate an overview, for example, what does the journey of buying surf equipment look like? You generate this overview, and then you can analyze it by a specific category, for example, surf level. So we'll generate an overview where it will tell us the first answer will be the journey of buying a surfboard looks like this, XYZ, those are the steps. And then in the second card, it will tell us, and these are the differences across surf level. Hope that makes sense. So here, for instance, we're seeing the general journey still being created, and this is the differences between beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And just a different view, a different way into that is here. It also looked at key themes by level, for example. And again, here you can keep prompting and asking it to answer in a specific way. The last functionality under analysis, it's something that we designed before we released the chat function. So it's something you can probably do straight from the chat, but this is a very precise way of looking for mentions of specific things. Like, did anyone mention? So this works this way. It's a bit like recreating that scenario when you're in a workshop and you're doing some analysis and you're like, wait, who was it that mentioned that specific thing, right? So who mentioned um, a board shaped like a soap bar? So this is designed to perform both a keyword search throughout the text, but also semantic search. So we look for anything that has similar meaning, right? In this case, we've got to James really quickly. James described the specific surfboard collection, 5'4", nicknamed a soap bar due to its wide and fat rectangular shape. And here he goes. He talks about have a board that's 5'4" below my chin, and it's called a soap bar. So those are the main functionalities as of now. So we have some sort of data management functionalities where you can bring in your recordings and transcribe them, tag them with interview tags, different ways of analyzing and interacting with the data. Particularly interesting one that we just released is the chat function, as I mentioned. And here is in reporting, we currently have clips, clip section where you can create your reels and export them. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into chat or unmute yourselves if you want. When you are on the platform, if you have any questions or doubts, you can use the support button. We'll typically reply within the same day, so you can just type a question in here. Alma, I see you've got off camera.
I know this is more about functionality, but I just have no idea about the payment model, so I just wondered, but maybe that's one for another time.
Yeah, we have different options. The costing is based on the volume of interviews that you look to analyze. Any changes depending on how many. But if you do reach out, we can give you all the details. And we have different packages for independent researchers, solo users, and companies. If you
Thank you.
want to give it a trial, you can go on Quallie.Ai and click on Get Access, and we'll get in touch with you to get you set up. Thank you, MD, for the great comment in chat. Thanks, Abby. Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on marco@quallie.ai. Bye, everyone.